Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Hillary, aka Hills Alive, and today I'm going to be reacting to House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 3, Second of His Name. Cool Valerian sigil.
House Valerian is coming for you!
Really cool facial appliances on Craig's Crab Feeder. I really love the design of his mask and his scarring and all of that stuff. Where does he find like an endless supply of crabs? Presumably he's moving around the sea a lot, so... Who's that guy yelling dragon? Like they don't already know that there's a dragon there.
Save me!
That seems pretty on brand for Targaryen saviorism. Just stick your big long neck in there, buddy. I don't get the impression that he's afraid of fire, given his face. Unless that's supposed to be some kind of, like, infection. Skin disease. Like, grayscale. Whoever got that's a really good shot. In the dark when he's on a moving dragon.
2 years old and already our boy has a kingly presence.
No, he does not.
But this morning he...
The matter of the stepstones is regrettably urgent.
It's been 3 years. It can wait another 3 days. Come, eat. Fortify yourselves.
Dude, when your teenage wife is more concerned about the political situation than you are, that's a problem.
Is the baggage train ready?
Daemon has driven the men hard. They have begun to question his command.
As they should. He's not a very good commander.
Thailand.
Now is the...
Her ships and her people, her heart broke.
Interesting that she's listening to a song about Nymeria, who was, you know, the anti-Targaryen.
The Queen commands you to leave the Godswood at once.
Flexing on Rhaenyra. Although, again, I'm like iffy on the whole making Rhaenyra and Alicent best friends. In this episode, seeing the interesting contrast of like, okay, Alicent has a 2-year-old kid and she's pregnant again, and Rhaenyra is still acting like a petulant child. Yeah, the contrast between them as, you know, Rhaenyra still being very much like a spoiled teenager and Alicent being a mother of almost 2. It seems like a kind of intentional contrast that they're creating in this episode.
And you have duties.
As I am ceaselessly reminded.
I'm sorry?
As I am ceaselessly reminded.
You would need to be reminded.
Like, girl, if you don't want to do them, just don't take the throne. Is that Larys's first appearance in Harwin's? But more Larys, because he's more relevant. And the Lannister twins, aka Sir Humphrey? Sir Hugh? Sir Hugh of the Vale, right.
I fear the gods did not make me for hunting. Might I sit with you, my ladies?
No, of course. Please join us.
He wants all that tea.
The youngest son of our Master of Lord.
But the crown is not a wall. The crown
This dog.
is a wall,
Again.
princess. Though you'll find... Now have you served the one with late Lady Red Wine, waiting cake?
Oh my god. Even Larys is like, damn. Yikes.
Quite something.
I don't have a dragon pit, of course, but I do have the means and resources to build one.
God, stop looking at her
Why would
like
you need
that.
a dragon pit?
I'd do anything for my queen. Or lady wife.
A little too forward, bro.
Thank you for the wine.
Bid you adieu, good sir.
That what I am to you? A prize to proffer about to the great houses.
I mean, for real, like, every daughter in Westeros is, so.
Rhaenyra, Jason Lannister is an excellent match.
He's arrogant and self-serious.
Well, I thought you might have that in common.
Oh, burn.
Since you came of age. Princess.
How is, like, no one else bothered besides Kristen?
Droppings were found half a league to the east.
Still fresh.
Between 2 and 3
Ew.
hours, Your Grace. My best scout spied him.
Ew, really?
Up with a
Really?
35 stone, and we now have his trail.
Do you think that House Targaryen wants for strength?
If someone offered you more
They're
dragons,
gonna.
would you not take them?
Do you have wine? It is not my wish to command her. I
Maybe
want her
it should
to
be.
happy. Prince Aegon. The boy just turned 2, Otto. Yes, but it would cease the endless proposals for Rhaenyra's hand. Betroth them. I came here to hunt.
You weren't laughing when you were considering marrying a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, so.
Let us speak no more.
King Jaehaerys ruled over half a century of peace while his children drove him to the edge of madness. His daughters in particular. It is tradition, Your Grace.
Honestly, the amount of effed up shit Jaehaerys did to his daughters.
Hear my opinion on the
Ugh.
matter.
Yikes.
You believe that your son, Sir Harwin Breakbones, the strongest knight in the 7 kingdoms, is the best match for Rhaenyra.
That honestly would have solved a lot of problems.
But no.
He is way too drunk for this conversation.
Princess, I must make a final plea that we return to the camp.
Did they just like happen upon a fire pit or something?
Here.
This is like exactly what you don't do in a horror movie. I know that boars can obviously very seriously injure you or kill you. Like, they have that kind of like jump scare and then all of a sudden there's a freaking pig running out of the forest. It was a little goofy. Chill out, what did he do to you? You're in his house, lady. Jesus.
I named her to protect the realm from Daemon.
Which was the correct impulse.
I poured all my thought and will into it.
I love that he's like obsessed with prophecy and could not give two craps about his daughter, who is a literal prophet. Like, she can't stop telling prophecies.
Was the way I married? Then I would have a son.
Why wouldn't you imagine that, though? You are the king. Honestly, people give Alicent so much shit for, like, being a social climber or, like, desperate for power or whatever, but she had a very obvious opening right there to, like, put the pressure on Viserys, and he would have gone for it if she said, I want our son to be the heir. Or she at least, you know, he at least would have considered it. I love this absurd analogy for, like, the hunt. Him getting escorted off of his horse so he can stab a trapped animal. I've seen better CGI there.
May not be white, Your Grace.
Just get it over with, Jesus. Ugh. Poor thing.
A bit to your left.
Jesus. Yes, let's all applaud. Again, the CGI is not great, especially given how much good CGI they do have in the show. None of you seem that concerned when she ran out of the camp like a bat out of hell. But now that she's back and all bloody with a boar. Like, oh my god. He is all about that life, obviously.
It is Aegon that's being robbed. He's the firstborn son of the king. To deny that he is heir to the throne is to assail the laws of gods and men.
To assail the laws of men.
The road ahead is uncertain, but the end is clear. Aegon will be king. You must guide Viserys towards reason. He'll never find it on his own.
That is true. He's not going to find reason on his own.
Lord Corlys and Prince Daemon are losing their war.
Badly, by all accounts.
This is a plea for aid.
How badly do you have to goof things up that you can't win a war with, like, one of the largest navies in the world and a dragon? Multiple dragons.
Unhappy with decisions.
Several dragons.
That I am forever doomed to anger one person in the pleasing of another.
Then I pose a simpler question.
Daemon is thorn enough in my flesh. Will you insist on taking after him?
Yes,
Must
she will.
everything be about
In many ways.
To attempt to marry me off to...
I loved her. She made a man of me.
And then you gutted her like a fish.
I seek to replace you, child. You've been much alone these last few...
So, among many of my criticisms regarding the whole Rhaenyra succession issue is that, yes, obviously she points out that it would have been more beneficial for Viserys to marry Laena Velaryon. But do you think that Corlys or the Valerians would ever tolerate would ever tolerate him prioritizing Rhaenyra over any children, male children that Laena and Viserys had? Come on now. It's just not a realistic expectation. No one proposed their daughter marry Viserys without the assumption that her children would inherit if she had male children.
Archers hold their high positions, foot soldiers hold the ground. We've strafed them on Dragonback again and again, but they just retreat within the caves.
Like, are you sincerely telling me that the only thing anyone ever needed to avoid being killed by dragons was caves? Caves. The big stupid bouffant on your head.
Blood or no, Vaymond?
You must be so mad. Like your loser older brother has to bail you out because you effed up that bad. Come on. Sir, he did not do anything wrong, okay? Don't kill the messenger, literally. What a freaking jerk. It's not like he can go have reconstructive surgery either. God. God, he looks like he has had a rough couple of years. Like, why wouldn't you just try a different strategy if you keep on doing the same thing and Daemon keeps on killing everybody? Just do something else. Are they all really going, like, on his teeny tiny nod, too? Like, if I'm looking at somebody who's 50 yards away and they're just, like, twitching, like, no, I need a more clear signal before I rush out to my death. I also love that Daemon would literally rather kill himself than have his brother help him. Sea Smoke. Sea Smoke is a very pretty dragon. I like seeing the dragons kind of employed in a strategic way. I feel like a lot of Dany's dragon moments were just like her setting whatever on fire, but the fact that they had to actually kind of draw out their enemies and then take down different targets was an interesting switch up from what we saw in Game of Thrones. Just like snatching up some randos. I can't. It's gross. Yeah, like, if you've made the killing blow, like, let somebody know. Don't just be standing there waiting to be seen. You're too cool to, like, speak to anybody or whatever. Okay, so that was House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 3, titled Second of His Name. This was definitely kind of a hit or miss episode for me, like in the most literal sense. Like the stuff with Crag as crab feeder, all of the battle scenes, seeing the Valerians and Daemon taking on the Triarchy, seeing the dragons employed in a strategic manner. I really liked all of those elements of the episode. I feel like that's definitely interesting and like what people are after when they're watching a spin-off of Game of Thrones about the Targaryens. But the other, I found it weird. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense that that was the B plot, because obviously that's a lot more expensive to shoot than like the actors walking around in the woods and stuff. But I think that that really should have been the A plot. And I think that the B plot should have been the whole Aegon's second name day and Rhaenyra going off into the woods and all of that stuff. Because I felt like that was just kind of a waste of time. Like, I felt like they could have incorporated the character development that they wanted into other episodes or into other storylines rather than doing it with this. It just felt very kind of pointless. And I didn't really get... So obviously they introduced the idea of the White Hart to signify some kind of prophecy, some kind of portent or symbol that Aegon is supposed to be king, but then Rhaenyra actually sees it, so is she supposed to be the queen? Or are we supposed to take it as obviously all of these things are up for interpretation or just not even signs at all? So I was left with the question basically of whether or not the show was attempting to imply that Rhaenyra was actually supposed to be the fabled chosen one, or if she sees the White Hart and then takes that as a symbol that she is supposed to be the chosen one and is supposed to take the throne no matter what. Obviously, I lean towards the second one just because I don't think like there's any sort of the idea of a single person being destined to take the throne or save the world seems silly and doesn't seem to be on theme with a lot of George R.R. Martin's writing. So I lean towards the belief, obviously, that she sees the White Hart and takes that as confirmation to herself that she is actually supposed to be the one who rules Westeros. She is supposed to become queen. But I feel like the show, well, obviously, given that I don't know what it meant, I feel like the show didn't do a good enough job of establishing whether or not we're supposed to take this as a literal symbol of Rhaenyra's supremacy, or if it's just supposed to be kind of a fake out for Rhaenyra to interpret specifically. Because my immediate impulse, beyond my preferred interpretation of the story as it is, it seems more obvious that the audience would read Rhaenyra seeing the White Hart as a symbol of her destiny. And I think that would be clear to whoever edited it or wrote it or anything like that. So is that what we're supposed to be taking from it? I guess so. But again, that's just my guess. And I feel like if that's not what we're supposed to take from it, then they should have made their subtlety less subtle. So yeah, in terms of that aspect of the storyline, which obviously took up a great deal of the episode, it felt like a really unnecessary kind of wild goose chase that could have been used a lot more efficiently. I think this is obviously one of the fundamental problems with making the show so short, too. And I don't necessarily blame the producers or writers or envy the position that they're in, because really their only options are to tell a much longer story over a much bigger series that, you know, they probably don't have the budget for necessarily. Or they can compact all of the information that we need to know in a matter of 10 episodes, but then that's always going to feel like it's a little lacking or is going to feel a little rushed. Or, as in the case with this episode, it kind of feels like when you have so little time to tell a story, wasting time on something that isn't super duper pertinent to the story at large is going to feel like a waste of time, even though it shouldn't necessarily. Like, a lot of shows take time to sort of go beyond the main story that they're telling and go off and tell single episode stories or develop their characters in certain directions that just make you understand who that person is rather than serving a greater narrative. But when you're dealing with such a short time frame, when you're covering literally 20 years of imaginary history in 10 episodes, you need to use your time wisely. And I don't necessarily feel like this episode maximized what it could out of what they had to work with. And yeah, obviously I'm not Damon's biggest fan in the entire world, but I do have to agree, he had a good arc this episode. He was very badass, although okay, so all we ever needed to do was just make Damon really irritated, and then he won the war in a matter of, I don't know, 20 minutes or something. That seems a little goofy. And he should not be feeling himself that hard if it took you 3 years to win this war that you could have won in 20 minutes. And I think my most distinct memory of watching this episode for the first time was that initially I wasn't super sold on the idea of Matt Smith as Damon, just because in the books, some of the things that Damon is described as doing seem borderline superhuman. I always imagine him being the size of Chris Hemsworth or something, because the amount of physical strength and power it would take to do some of these things, you'd have to be a freak of nature. You'd have to be another Gregor Clegane to be able to do it. So just the fact that Matt Smith was a normal sized human being made me a little wary of how well he was going to perform the character. But I feel like the ending sequence of him taking everyone on by himself, even though I thought it was a little, I don't know, corny, I also feel like that was the first time when I was watching House of the Dragon the first time that I really thought, oh, okay, I can see why they cast him as Damon, and I can believe him as a character like Damon, even though some of the physical feats that he's going to have to accomplish in the future would be very difficult for someone who was not an absolute genetic freak of nature to do. So yeah, overall, okay episode, definitely a really strong ending. Overall, at least at the time, I remember this being kind of my least favorite episode of the season, so it'll be interesting to see if I feel the same way on the second go around. Yeah, so that is a wrap on this episode. I'm going to be covering the rest of House of the Dragon Season 1, and obviously watching and reacting to House of the Dragon Season 2, so if you're interested in seeing more content like this, like and subscribe.